You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Live tropical weather bulletin for May 22nd. So here it is right now, no tropical cyclones active, at least nothing that's been named or numbered, but we're mighty close right now on day 142 of the year so far. In more than one place, it should be said, and plenty more on the way by the looks of things. So the Atlantic's probably what most people want to know about. An 80% chance off Bermuda right now, 10 days until hurricane season, and yet a 40% off the coast of Texas as well that's going to move inland in the next 18 hours. Both systems could form. The 80% 90L is probably going to become a brief subtropical cyclone. No areas of interest in the eastern Pacific on day 8 of hurricane season. The little area of interest that we had marked the eastern part of the basin has really gone into disarray, so we're not really monitoring anything now. In the western Pacific, we've got those two areas of interest with lower chances right now, 20% off the coast of Vietnam, that's towards the end of the 5-day period, and that 10% also towards the end of the 5-day period, which will end up heading towards the Mariana Islands. And in the North Indian Ocean, the models are still trending more aggressively for this area of interest in the Bay of Bengal, which is 80% right now, and is probably going to develop into a tropical cyclone within the next 48 hours. After that, it will probably stall a little bit at first, and then move towards the north. This is the Atlantic satellite right now. You can see towards the top end of the image that potential subtropical cyclone. National Hurricane Center haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. They're waiting a little longer to see if it gets the requirements, in their opinion, for subtropical storm status. They're saying that it's got gale force winds, and its appearance is it looked pretty good earlier today, then lost its way just a little bit, but still that potential remains for it in the next 24 to 36 hours. The Gulf of Mexico shows you that other system right now. It also swirls, but not much on top of it apart from the low-level circulation. So chance running out for that, even though we weren't expecting it to become anything in the first place. But, well, National Hurricane Center threw it at us earlier today when they went with 60%. I think now they're at 50. We're going with 40 on our update. Landfall is expected probably in about 12 hours. Exactly where, I'm not sure. They're probably just north of Corpus Christi or headed towards Houston maybe. Eastern Pacific, looking at this right now, fairly quiet. The intertropical convergence zone is dominating and not much else. You can see lots of cloud, thin cloud towards the northern part of the basin there off the coast of Baja California. So it looks like a very stable atmosphere right now. The Western Pacific will appear in just a moment. There it is. So a lot going on here as well, although nothing organized. You can see a lot of the intertropical convergence zone again towards the east of Micronesia. One of those little bits there may end up developing into a tropical cyclone, low chance. And in the South China Sea, you're looking at that area of convection there as well, extending from the Philippines to the southern tip of Vietnam. Something out of that is probably going to form in a few days' time. Looking over at the South Pacific, that looks interesting. A little area there over the Solomon Islands, but I trust nothing's going to become of that. And what we're looking out for down here, though, possibly beyond the 5-day period, is an area near New Zealand that could be a subtropical development later on down the line. Initially a strong extratropical cyclone that will deliver gale force winds to New Zealand, and then possibly subtropical transition later. The North Indian Ocean is mostly in the dark actually, but you can see all the blue to green areas showing the heavy rainfall Still very monsoonal in its nature, but I think it might be that western area near India that will eventually cross over towards the east, the right-hand side, and then develop into that tropical cyclone. Sea surface temperatures are fairly warm, as you'd expect for this time of year, and warming up in the northern hemisphere, the eastern Pacific, 30 degrees plus off the coast of Mexico. The Atlantic is also fairly warm. Interesting to see where those two invests are. For the northern one, 90L, temperatures there look like, trying to get a handle on that actually, something like 20 to 22 degrees Celsius, and in the Gulf of Mexico, the northwestern Gulf, probably just shy of 26, I think that one is. Or maybe that is the 26th line. We'll have a closer look at that a little bit later on. The North Indian Ocean, very warm, pushing 32 degrees for a lot of the Bay of Bengal. And in the South China Sea, 30 degrees plus there as well. The Philippine Sea, also warm, as we'd expect. Wow, I've outlasted the music this time. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly, showing just how warm it is compared to average in the North Indian Ocean and in the Western Pacific, as it has been in recent days. And the Atlantic is generally above average, but a few key places where it's still below average in the sea surface temperatures. The central part of the Caribbean there, just off the coast of Venezuela, up into the central Caribbean. And the Gulf Coast at large is a little bit below the standard temperature for the time of year. So there you have it. That's all of the action right now. And to discuss all of what we've just spoken about and to have more discussion on this and commentary is our team. Tonight we've got Christian, Ryan Leahy, Xavier and Mike. Good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we've dissected through all of that just there. There's quite a few places where we could begin. Let's ask Ryan, because we've not heard from you for quite some time. It's nice to see you back on here again. What's caught your eye today?
Well, 90L is certainly teasing us. It's been teasing us for all day. I mean, I think when I woke up this morning, I definitely thought that it was about to form into a subtropical cyclone. And it always feels like it's just there, like it's almost there, but it's not quite there yet. And maybe it'll probably get there, I think. I still think that it will develop, but I mean, it's really been teasing us recently. And then there's 91L, which was quite a surprise to me. I did not think that was going to be anything potentially significant in terms of tropical cyclone development. But the NHC had it up at 60% at their 18Z outlook. It's now down to 50%. Yeah, and that's going to be making landfall probably around Texas in about 12 hours, maybe like tomorrow morning. Maybe tonight?
Probably early tomorrow morning, the way it's going right now. Hard to gauge, but what will it be when it arrives there? I don't think it's going to have time to spin up to become a tropical cyclone.
Yeah, it's looking less likely.
NHC don't know. They're 50-50. I mean, maybe they elevated those chances a little bit just because of how close it is to the coast, Possibility.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, that is a possibility.
Xavier, what are your thoughts tonight?
Well, this is definitely an interesting situation we got in the Atlantic right now. I mean, if you look at the analogs for any kind of May storm, you've never seen one east of Bermuda in the satellite history. So we're looking at something we haven't really seen before in terms of May tropical cyclone development, even subtropical cyclone development. So if 90L does become the first storm of the season, it's going to be the first for that kind of record. Because we seem to be falling right where we left off at 2020, breaking records in any way we can. And with the Gulf Coast, nothing's ever formed in the Western Gulf either in May. So definitely interesting what we got going here. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone's starting to get used to preseason streak continuing year after year after year at this point. So they're pretty much just thinking it's stale or just another normal day. But 2021 is definitely proving to be something different. with how this preseason streak is going to be continued, possibly.
And it makes you wonder for the rest of the season to come. But looking elsewhere as well so far, trying to get. Don't think we have that imagery just yet of the North Indian Ocean, but you were looking at it earlier. It was rather a lot of monsoonal activity that's eventually going to give way to this what looks like a big tropical cyclone on the cards. Another one for potentially the coast of India.
Yeah, I've been monitoring that. That definitely needs to be something that parts of northeastern India and Bangladesh watch out for. Especially looking at some of the 18Z model runs, those have definitely been a little bit of a concern. So it's really something they have to watch out for, and it's definitely unfortunate since the western coast of India just went through Taute, and now we have the eastern coast of India on tap for another strike.
We're going to take a look at worldwide model runs in just a moment, but let's talk to Mike. Hello. Are you there? I must have taken a step away just then. Christian, you're also on board tonight. You've been watching these systems too.
Yes, I have been. Again, 91 looked like it was gonna form, and I was really expecting it to get named when I was obviously when I was unavailable, as has been the case for several times now. And well, I was honestly surprised to say that it wasn't. Oh,
Yeah.
that's been yeah.
And I'm just getting stuff. Look, so you can send in your questions, by the way, whilst we're on the air. That's our main function of a live stream on our, at least, especially on our tropical coverage. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. We'll be able to answer all your questions. I think this format is very good for Q&A sessions. So send in your questions. The one has just come in there. What do you forecast for the Bay of Bengal area of interest? Possibly a powerful cyclone. We'll look at it soon. How do you feel right now about the National Hurricane Center's decision to downgrade Iota to Category 4, if we have any conclusions yet? And we have probably also seen the oh dear, I can't speak at all tonight, unnecessary backlash against it. Does anyone want to try and take that one on?
I mean, the thing about Iota being downgraded to a Cat 4, I don't mind that it got downgraded to a Cat 4. It's just when the NHC, says that Lorenzo and Matthew is a Cat 5 based on, similar evidence. It's just inconsistent. That's the problem, inconsistency.
We're going down that rabbit hole.
Oh dear.
But it was
it
is a legitimate question, and it's a decision that was taken recently in their report on the storm that happened. Was it last week?
Yeah, that came last week. Or was it Tuesday or something? Yeah, I think it was early this week, actually. But to be fair, I mean, while there was a lot of controversy about the downgrade of Iota, the report itself, if you were to take some time and actually look into it, it's very, very much detailed. Actually, one of the most impressively detailed that I've seen from tropical cyclone reports. And they actually did note how SFMRs have actually become a little bit unreliable. So this could actually be a step towards getting some of those past storm intensities adjusted. So this could be actually a step towards future reanalysis, actually.
Interesting. I don't know what happened to the satellite image in the last frame there, but we're just looking at an infrared view. You quite clearly see that the system 90L has clearly detached from that frontal system there that's pushing along below it now. It took its time to do that, though, didn't it? And it's still taking its time right now, time that it might not have.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know what's happening with the imagery for the latest frame there, but yeah, it looks like it's, again, from what I see, it's definitely detached, and
there it is in
it's
the water
obviously
vapor now.
whoa. Oh, okay, yeah, there we go. I see it. I don't know what to make of this, to be honest.
It's interesting to see that there's actually it's blowing little bits of convection. It's not much, but you can see some of it on the outside of the storm as well. And we are right to call it a storm because it currently carries gale force winds, even though it's not a subtropical or tropical storm just yet. But the thing is, as far as I know, certainly what the models are saying is that the wind speeds in this storm will decrease. So it might well be the case that tomorrow it becomes a subtropical depression that never gets named. Because the winds aren't going to go back up again. Maybe.
It's running out of time.
That would annoy a lot of people, I can tell you that.
Oh, absolutely it will.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just waiting for the... Oh dear, it's not even... Right. I was supposed to get the models to run, but it hadn't even begun, and I thought it had, so I've just wasted a few minutes there. Let's just go back again to the... Was it the unenhanced? That's what it is on the unenhanced infrared, and you can see that same picture there. Certainly an impressive circulation. I think the NHC are right not to give it tropical storm or subtropical storm status just yet. A few more questions. What's this about a potential subtropical cyclone forming near New Zealand? We'll show you this when we get to the models. This morning, Eastern time, it looked like it should have been named. What do we think about that? Because it looked better earlier today.
It did, and then it dropped off a cliff, basically. That's all I can say. Yeah, I mean, it was looking pretty good this morning, but obviously now it's not so much.
It had better convection, but I wasn't sure. I wouldn't. Well, I'll tell you what I was saying in calls earlier today is I wouldn't have been surprised if they gave it, but they haven't. So it's still not a tropical cyclone just yet. Where's the warmest waters for 90L, and is it headed that way? Well, it's sort of moving southwest, so that will be heading towards warmer waters. I don't think it's really going to make a difference. It's supposed to make an abrupt turn back on itself when it nears Bermuda. And in a couple more minutes, I'll have the models ready to take a look at. And then after that, we'll take a look at some more brands of satellite imagery across the Atlantic. Are these May invests cause for concern during peak season? Not really. It doesn't really have a bearing on the peak season, although we said that last year. I think it was a coincidence that we had early activity that led to the main event, because sometimes you can have early activity and not much else. So not always. Could we talk about how we delineate between a potential subtropical storm and tropical storm for 90L? You want to talk about that?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How we delineate between a potential subtropical storm and a tropical storm. It's quite a simple distinction on the storm's qualities, whether it's fully warm core or whether it's a hybrid system.
And of course, it's also to deal with its frontal, any kind of frontal boundary that it's with as well. And maybe that's been the case with the origins of 90L. It started out as an extratropical cyclone. It's been working on detaching its front. I think that was one of the main reasons why it wasn't designated earlier, because it wasn't entirely detached yet, and because of that, they did not pull the trigger yet. So,
right. Hopefully, this button works. There it is. This is the initialization of the model run, the GFS 18Z for 90L. As you can see there, it's got, let's just probe that, wind speeds probably sustained of around 45 miles per hour and quite a wide wind field as well. You can see it extending out there quite some distance. Let me just try and find Bermuda in all of that before we go any further, because we've got to get this into perspective for Bermuda, because that is probably the only area that could be threatened by this storm. And it's over here somewhere. I can't find it. It's underneath the wind field somewhere, but probably towards the left-hand side. Let's just see if we can see it as the model run progresses. Okay, there we go. That's the storm weakening. So this is what I was talking about with it weakening pretty much straight off, at least according to the model run. So not much chance for it to be an actual tropical storm, because that's the green areas, the tropical storm force winds, and then it really decays and again gets swallowed up into probably a extratropical cyclone, a massive extratropical cyclone up there, and then who knows where after that. Still couldn't find Bermuda, by the way. People know where it is, I hope. It's about 400 miles east-northeast of... the storm is about 400 miles east-northeast right now. Looking over towards the Gulf then, this is what we have right now. The model really barely picking up on it. But eventually, you can see quite clearly where the centre makes landfall. And that would be pretty much just a couple miles north of Corpus Christi. So moving inland there, let me just give you a time frame on that. The time of landfall there is 2 a.m. local time, Central Daylight Time, 2 a.m. According to the GFS model, but not very strong in winds, only delivering... Hold on, let's just see if we can get a number on that. On land, around 30 miles per hour. What I've noticed, though, behind that, the GFS at 18Z has actually thrown up the potential for another system right behind it.
Oh
this
dear.
little area here. Yep, this little area here is a potential system from the GFS. Behind that, that's on, that's just tomorrow actually, this time tomorrow near enough. And that could also develop into a little, so you can see they're trying to get that spin. Whether it gets there or not, we'll have to see, but that could be another thing following right on the footsteps of Invest 91. Let's hope not. Moving into, well, let's just look at the rest of the Atlantic basin first, just to show you that there's not really anything else going on. Staying fairly quiet. You can see winds getting up there in the southern Caribbean Sea. That's fairly normal. The Eastern Pacific over this time period then, not much going on. You can again see just a few areas from the intertropical convergence zone, all this line here that's trying to it's delivering some strong winds locally over the water, but none of that will really develop into a defined tropical cyclone. So East Pacific's having, apart from of course the first storm we've already had, a little bit of sedate start by the looks of things. Models long range aren't saying much. Western Pacific, two areas to watch right now, here and somewhere along this line here, for those two areas of interest. Let's watch this. So you can see now, yes, this is trying to come together, and this here off the coast of Vietnam. So those two areas, and I'll remove the annotations. Now the GFS has been trending recently on the Vietnam system that it will stay very close to land, and so will really fail to intensify very much at all before making landfall. So that's going to be more of a rain threat than anything else. Looking back east, that system potentially developing, but looks like it's only going to be late on. So that's something to watch out for really down the line as it heads towards the Philippines. Now, the Indian Ocean, I think you saw it just before, but this is what we're really watching for right now. So already tropical storm force winds in the next 24 hours, and then all of a sudden you get this center of circulation that forms, oops, I've just lost it there. It's just reverted back to the beginning. I can't find the mouse. There it is. So as you can see, the center forms around about there with a massive bulk of tropical storm winds and probably a huge amount of rain in that as well. And then before you know it, Category 1, that's what the GFS has here by This would be local time, it would be Monday morning. And then by the time we get to Tuesday morning, there it is, probably category 2. And then Tuesday night, it's making landfall not far from Kolkata as a quite powerful storm. Now this of course is just one of the model runs. They're all saying different things, but this particular one saying that it's going to be borderline major hurricane equivalent when it makes landfall there in a very vulnerable part of the world. So that's another thing to watch out for very closely. And soon, because that is going to be on, what was that, Tuesday night. And that's me doing an annotation.
Not very far away.
Looking down to the southwest Indian Ocean, this little thing refuses to let go. A very broad system right now. Well, that was the invest that was near Diego Garcia. It shouldn't do anything. Some people are still watching it with a lazy eye, but I don't think anything's going to come of that. And I've done it again. Moving east, let's take a look at the New Zealand area. So look at this right now, a rather broad extratropical cyclone that's near the coast of, well, off the north of New Zealand, in between New Zealand and Fiji. And this is how it goes. So a very broad extratropical cyclone with a large wind profile, delivering significant tropical storm force winds to New Zealand. I'm not convinced at any of this stage it's nameable as subtropical or anything. Now it's this phase that you're watching later on. Along here, there it is. That there could be a subtropical storm phase, and what's left of it ends up going down there towards the North Island of New Zealand. So that's rather interesting. But only when it gets around here probably is the chance for subtropical development, and that is on the 26th. So that would be Wednesday into Thursday morning. You may have also noticed towards the end of that run one or two little things spurring off from that as well. The one on the left there, that could become a brief subtropical or tropical cyclone way down there in the South Pacific. So that's another interesting thing there to watch out for. And that's the whole world in a nutshell, really. So we'll now go back to the team on your thoughts on what you've just seen regarding the model runs.
Yeah, I'm definitely more concerned about 93B than really the other Atlantic systems. Of course, we're going to have those people who, of course, want on and Bill and all that stuff, but I really think that people should really be paying attention to what 93B does, because I definitely think that has the potential. Sea surface temperatures there are already boiling. I mean, we got sea surface temperatures above what we saw with Taute, up to 32 degrees Celsius and such, and that is definitely not something you want to be joking around with at all. So
right now we're looking at imagery of Invest 90L. You can see it once again here on our imagery. The convection there coming in fits and starts, and quite clear that center, the center of circulation, but it's still not at that stage yet where it's nameable from National Hurricane Center. That's as of their last update, which was just half an hour ago, was it?
Yeah.
And we'll try and get more from the Indian Ocean soon. Let's get some questions then. Can a Category 5 or a major hurricane hit the Yucatan this season?
That's long range, so we can't say really.
It's always a possibility, considering that what we saw last year, we didn't really, well, the Yucatan got a few hits, but not an extremely powerful one like a Gilbert, as they mentioned. Can't rule it out fully, but it is unlikely. And Stria Tracking says, what are your thoughts on these words? I think the North Indian Ocean season will be active this year.
It's already pretty
Well,
active with,
yeah,
you know.
made with Talte, 93. Um, yeah.
This is the
Well,
only imagery I have of
sorry.
the Indian Ocean right now, but there we have it. Go ahead.
Oh, it's better than nothing.
Well, I know I'm a bit late to this. I had something else to do. But about the Indian Ocean activity, currently after this wave, I don't really think that there will be much more activity because that's when you have the monsoon coming back. And you know how that restricts storms from forming. It can cause more shear, just cause way more unfavorable conditions for tropical cyclone like Denises. Yeah, I don't think that after this month or into June that we will get much activity for the North Indian Basin.
Just want to
I
take a
mean,
look. Go on.
oh, I was just going to mention, the possibility of, another major cyclone, obviously, in the Bay of Bengal. And, yeah, having two majors for the pre-monsoonal North Indian Ocean season, I mean, that is pretty active. I mean, you usually get 1 to 2 storms in that period. And with both of them being majors, that's even rare. I mean, it happened in 2019, but yeah, it is kind of interesting to see.
Now, regarding Invest 91L, gotta say, on this infrared imagery, it looks pretty rubbish.
Oh dear.
When you go beyond the very low levels, there is nothing to see there. And just see if we can get the visible from earlier to show you how it looked at the low levels before it got dark. Well, there it was. The sun, look at it. So you can quite clearly see the rotation there at the low levels, but we're seeing next to nothing at the higher levels and mid levels.
Yeah, about Invest 91, I would like to add that it's currently coming out of diurnal mid. This is when
Okay.
the cap of the atmosphere, this is when it's very defined. It's the most defined. And as a result, with immature cyclones and weaker cyclones in general, that's when you don't see much convection going up. So that's basically what seems to be happening with 91.
I wonder if there's anything visible on radar. Is it close enough? We'll have a little look at that, and if there's anything to show you, we will. But again, there is some rapid scan of Invest 90L, one of the many systems we're looking at today. But your questions really drive our second part of the show, really, this half hour. And let's get some. Quite a lot, actually. Why is 90L struggling, anyone?
Right, it's running out of time. That's all I'm gonna say, really.
Yeah, I think how much time does it have? Like maybe 24 hours ish?
Yeah, about 24, maybe
Yeah.
36 at a push.
We'll see if it actually manages to form. I mean, we were thinking that it was definitely going to form, but now it seems like we're a little unsure.
I was skeptical when I saw it earlier today. I figured, they hadn't named it this morning and it was starting to degrade a bit. I was surprised they hadn't named it.
Yeah. I mean, it looked really good this morning. I was surprised that they didn't name it at 15Z.
Yeah, the thing is, though, well, like we saw on the model run, most likely by the end of tonight, say they don't issue the first advisory at the, what would it be, the 11 p.m. update?
Yes.
Then I don't think it will be a named storm. Because I think it will lose its winds. we've got a view now of, there is some radar of 91L. You can see some of the rain bands that are coming in from it. Not many, of course, as it's let's say it's a fairly weak invest. But there are a few areas of showers that are moving onshore, and you look a little bit further north there. A significant line that just passed Victoria, moving westwards and fizzling out now. So yeah, there's going to be some rain out of this, small amounts by the looks of things, unless it decides it's just going to go crazy with the convection overnight.
Please don't.
We had lots more questions. Have we heard that the MJO will arrive in the Eastern Pacific / Atlantic around late May? Is that true? I'm not sure that was what I was hearing earlier today, but I may be mistaken on that.
I haven't really looked into that.
It will eventually get there, I'm sure. But I'm thinking it's going to be June. Could the area of deep convection southeast of 91L possibly influence its intensification? Well, I know there is, but unless you see convection firing over the very centre of this system, there's nothing going to happen with it, really. Let's get back to the satellite imagery, if we can. Takes a little while. Oh, there it is. So, again, completely different to the radar. It just shows the higher clouds. It's all sprinting forward towards the northwest. And we'll keep looking at that whilst we take more questions. Do you think Charlotte will get hit this year by extratropical storms or tropical storms?
Well, they're in Charlotte, South Carolina, so that would probably be tropical storms more likely than extratropical. I mean, if you look at the prediction that we made back in April, I think pretty sure that South Carolina was one of the target sets, possibly.
I'm just trying to navigate to that now. I'm trying to get back to what we predicted in the April forecast. That area, not in a huge risk. Yeah, I wouldn't be losing sleep, but there's always that possibility. But it's not a huge risk. In the Bay of Bengal, a system in there, where is it going to make landfall based on the model? On the GFS model, it's expected to make landfall probably close to Kolkata. Yeah, looks very close actually. It's a little west of there. Let me try and find an actual location. This doesn't really matter very much because this will shift quite a bit. But currently the GFS model has it striking areas around Digha and Conte and eventually over to Kharagpur. Looking at other models, which I can't show you on the screen, but just to tell you about these, the ECMWF model is currently predicting landfall just to the east, very close to the India-Bangladesh border actually, pretty much just west of the border, as a significant, at least category 2. CMC actually has a landfall in Myanmar near the border with Bangladesh, so that area can't be ruled out. The NavGem model wants a hasn't run itself actually, trying to get an earlier run. Those are really slow to run. Let's forget about the NavGem just now. It's not a very good model anyway. And the Icon has a landfall. I remember it being in a similar place. Yes. So that would be very close to Kolkata landfall on the Icon model as a likely category 2. And from what we were looking at model ensembles earlier, I was doing some research and it found really that it was what was it, 84% chance that this would become at least a category 1. So that might tell you a thing or two. what we're trying to get now in a moment is just a little look at the Indian region, the Bay of Bengal, to try and give you all angles. So that's just going to load in a moment. But right now we're just looking at the Corpus Christi area, which could be, according to the models, where the area of interest in Vest 91L makes landfall. More questions here. Is there a high risk for Texas this year? Let me consult my chart again. This is from what we did back in April. I should tell you that in 9 days' time now, the 31st of May, we will have another prediction for the Atlantic hurricane season, hopefully with it a lot more cleared up as to where the impact zones are actually going to be. So Texas, I would say around average risk, but yeah, I'm not too sure what to make of that. No real strong signals for Texas, but you could get tropical storms that form in the Bay of Campeche and moves towards the northwest and then goes on to affect this area that we're looking at on the screen and up towards the north and northeast. I would hesitate to think that decent analogues could possibly be things like Hermine in 2010. More questions and comments. 93B is forecast to become a low-end Category 4 according to the ECMWF. That would be quite something if it did, and it wouldn't be a surprise either. What would happen if a tropical system went below or above the equator? A curious question there from Nathaniel.
Well, just because the GFS decided it was okay to predict this in March does not mean that it's actually possible. If that were to theoretically happen, the storm would basically just be shredded immediately. There's a thing called the Coriolis force. It's the Coriolis effect. It's the reason that tropical systems do not cross the equator, and why you rarely see storms that are pretty much within 1 or 2 degrees north or south of the equator. So there have been storms that have gotten extremely close, within a degree, but they're extremely rare. And any time that they do try to cross the equator, they're pretty much immediately shredded. So do not count yourself as to thinking that they are possible. They are not. Although the GFS decided to think that was possible back in March, that is not a mindset to think.
And yes, the Coriolis effect is the reasons why cyclones in the northern hemisphere spin anti-clockwise and in the southern hemisphere spin clockwise.
Here's the Indian Ocean right now, the Bay of Bengal, and again you can see a little bit closer up now. All of those showers, some of them impacting eastern India. I do believe that that area on the western side that looks pretty decent will eventually become this area when it forms, and it will the rainfall will concentrate towards the eastern side of the basin. Also, we have found Bermuda. It's there on the map. Is it visible even on this screen? It's hard to find, you know, it is there. It's hard to see when you're trying to point it out. There's Bermuda, and that's where it is in relation to 90L right now. So not too far away, and indeed some rain showers associated with the system. You can say storm at the moment because it does have storm force winds, are indeed affecting the island and will continue to do so overnight. Do we think that a storm this year will pull a track similar to Irene from 2011?
Oh God, please don't remind me of that storm.
I would say... I don't know, actually. Because I always had this year down as the 2011 for 2010. 2021 for 2020, you know? And Irene happened in 2011. There was lots of 2011 analogues towards the start of the year. I'm not sure if they're still in play.
2011 is still. I mean, from Colorado State University when they released their analogs last year, they gave the 1996, 2001, 2008, 2011, and 2017 as their analog.
And 2011, I'd imagine, is drifting out in terms of being a good analog because things are trending just a little bit more differently. Let's see what else we have. More thoughts on IOTA being downgraded. That's what a lot of people want to know about. What are your thoughts?
Well, with IOTA, their reasoning is actually pretty good. I would like to say that the main reason that IOTA was even a Category 5 in the first place was because of how the forecaster at the time interpreted the SFMR readings. Those readings have been found to be inaccurate because of wave action due to the proximity of the island to the SFMR readings. And as a result, they had to readjust those SFMR readings because that would contaminate and basically just inflate readings due to how the algorithm actually works.
A
And there's
question.
just no
Sorry.
evidence.
I'm just conscious about time a little bit. When do we think that 90L will transition into an into a subtropical storm by this point? The answer could be never. I really think that the 11 p.m. advisory, if there is one, is going to be its last chance. It might have a little chance for a very brief period tomorrow, but if they haven't gone for it already, I don't think they will tomorrow.
I mean, there's still a chance. It did. The National Hurricane Center does highlight that there is a chance tomorrow morning. If they don't, my thinking is if they don't issue advisories by 11 a.m. tomorrow, that's the absolute latest that it has a chance of. If we do not have a subtropical cyclone by 11 a.m. tomorrow, then there really is all but lost hope for 90L there.
For those who are hoping for it. Oh dear, I keep pressing the wrong buttons. Alright, so that's a wide shot of everything that's going on. Actually, whoever pointed out the convection earlier, decent point, because it is firing a lot off the Yucatan.
Oh
But
wow,
it's
look at that.
not getting near the current invest. But I must, that the those models, the GFS, also the NAM on it, as far as I saw, with that potential second system, could come out of that convection blob. That would be something. What are your thoughts on the reanalysis of Laura and Eta?
Well, I mean, of course, those reports haven't come out, but do know that Force 13 has given both storms 155 miles an hour, respectively. That is five higher than both the official estimates. I do think that the National Hurricane Center will upgrade at least one of these to 155, whether it be Laura or Eta. There definitely is evidence to support both. I'm sorry, my cat is interrupting. Um, But yeah, Laura, of course, regardless of its final intensity, it definitely was a very significant storm. I really think that people who have issues with the intensity reanalysis of Iota, Laura, Eta, they really need to think about the actual cost of the system, whether it be the lives or the damage brought, especially with storms like Eta and Iota and Laura. I mean, you had very significant impacts. Laura caused over 14 billion hours of damage. Iota and Eta both struck Nicaragua as Category 4 hurricanes, both of them causing over 500 deaths in total. So it was definitely should not be reflected just based off intensity. It really should be reflected off the damage and its fatalities that they both cause.
Thank you for that. And looking again, just very interesting to see that area that's really just caught our attention just now. Really, lots of convection along the Yucatan coast, and that really could be where that next area forms. If those models to be believed, but we'll have to see. National Hurricane Center, I don't think have remarked on it at all yet, have they? And rightly so. Here's the Indian Ocean once again, the Bay of Bengal. with all of that rainfall. In fact, in a moment, once we get it ready, we'll show you the rainfall expectations for the next, we'll go for 7 days, shall we? The next 7 days. We'll take a look at the rainfall estimates, just to give you an idea of what we're expecting. Again, we'll look around the world. Just got to press a few buttons to make that happen. And it looks like we've got it now. So yes, this is interesting. So this is all, again, based on the GFS model. Look how much rainfall there is in the whole area. This is, you know, India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and down along even the coast of Thailand there and Malaysia. Some areas there are getting, let's see, right down there it's 15 inches, probably from the monsoonal pattern really, and a lot going in there as well, towards 18 inches in southeastern Myanmar, and that in millimeters, which is what's used commonly in those areas. I'm trying to figure that out. It's quite a lot. It's at least 400 millimeters. And then you've got the main part here, which is the storm, 30 inches there. And then as we get towards this potential landfall zone, at the moment it's calling for about 15 inches. Very interesting how the rain profile is very narrow though. How you have only 1.3 there, but 13 there. Obviously it's quite far out, so I guess we take that with a grain of salt. Looking further east, Vietnam in for a very wet event no matter what happens with that storm. Inland you're looking at values here again of maybe 16 inches, which is about, sorry, I'm really slow today, about 400 millimeters roughly. And out to sea 24 inches. Philippines not too wet in the next week, but look out towards the Micronesian islands. I'm not sure where the islands are on this particular graphic. I think you can see one of them around here, but huge amounts of rain occurring in these systems from the intertropical convergence zone, and same too in parts of the eastern Pacific, and then the Atlantic. Look at this, a lot of rain occurring off Costa Rica there, 20 inches plus from and now here we are looking at Texas, so you can see the next 7 days maybe 3 inches for parts in between Corpus Christi and Texas, just east of Victoria. And as for rainfall from the subtropical storm, not much, because subtropical cyclones don't deliver as much rainfall. For Bermuda, you're looking actually at just 0.5 inches according to GFS over the next 7 days. A few more minutes for your questions. Let's see what else we have just now. What's the maximum reasonable intensity of the predicted Bay of Bengal system, and how large could it get? It could get very large. It could get rather deep, that's for sure. But the maximum reasonable intensity, well, there's scope in archives for maybe even high in Category 4 for Category 5. Not to say that will happen by any stretch just yet. None of the models are saying that. So again, those are the rainfall estimates on the screen. Back to the rapid scan imagery of Invest 90L. Does anyone want to offer any more comment on that just now?
I think summing it up as we head into the final minutes of the stream, of course, while it definitely had the chance today and hasn't utilized it completely to its advantage, it's still got tonight and tomorrow morning to obviously becomes a tropical cyclone after 11 a.m. Eastern time, which would be 15 Z. I think those chances will be dropping off significantly after that point. So Definitely not the time to write off 90L, maybe not even 91L. It depends on if that gets that convective burst, as the National Hurricane Center has said on both systems that basically if it organizes a little more with 90L, it basically just continuing interference and getting a little more organized, then it becomes a tropical cyclone there. And with 91L, they pretty much said that if we do get a convective burst or any kind, and it wraps around, then we will probably have a TD of some kind by tomorrow or late tonight before it makes landfall north of Corpus Christi. So definitely not the time to write off those systems completely. There are still chances for both of them, but I don't think they're as high as the National Hurricane Center is highlighting them out to be, especially with 91L. I do think it's definitely important to keep on guard, especially as we head into actual hurricane season. 93B, I think that's going to be the one that really should be watching, especially for those that are in northeastern India and Bangladesh.
This really slipped under my radar, but I should point out that the Bermuda Weather Service actually has a tropical storm watch in effect for this as well.
Yeah.
And that's been the case for a little while.
I think they issued it 1 or 2 days ago. I think it was issued on Wednesday evening.
I know they were talking about doing that. I don't think there'll be a warning there, but just to make sure everyone's aware of that. A tropical storm watch for Bermuda. I'm also looking at the satellites. We use quite a few sources for these. It's all on the GO-16 satellite, but there's a few outlets. The College of DuPage, RAM, and quite a few others that are easily accessible. What are our thoughts on Sally and Isaias not being retired by the WMO?
Well, about those, I would say we can probably all agree that those two should have been retired for their impacts to land. But unfortunately, unless the nation that was impacted by those storms actually requests for retirement, the storm's not going to get retired.
The thing about Sally and Isaias, though, even though that they are by far, I think, along with probably Imelda of 2019, which also did not get retired, they're all, I think, easily the costliest storms to not get retired in the Atlantic basin, at least. Yeah, it was very interesting to see them retired. I think they just got overshadowed by other storms that year. I think that's the main reason. And that they were pretty, like, the damage wasn't enough. Like, it wasn't, I don't think that the damage was enough for them to definitely say, oh, we're retiring it. It was very on the fence with all three of those on if it would get retired or not.
Any final comments from the team before we wrap it up here?
I just want to say that 93 is probably the big system to keep an eye on as of this moment in time. Hopefully, well, 90 and 91L, they're both running out of time to get named, really. But again, our big focus should be 93B.
Indeed it is. So I'd like to thank my team for this hour of discussion tonight on this live tropical weather bulletin. It's been a pleasure to have you once again, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon, team.
Indeed.
In any case, as we look towards the future, this is where we're at right now on May 22nd. The first name on the Atlantic naming list still hasn't come about yet, but it's going to be Anna, followed by Bill. The Eastern Pacific, the next name is Blanca, followed by Carlos, and in the Central Pacific, we're still waiting for Hone. In the Western Pacific, list 4 sees the next name Choi Wan, probably that Vietnam system. In the North Indian Ocean, the next name is Yas, and that could be coming very soon indeed. Looking towards the Southern Hemisphere, the Australian region, Paddy's up next. In the Southwest Indian Ocean, Kanga, if it forms before July. And in the South Pacific, the next name is Cody. We'll see you again tomorrow on the next Tropical Weather Bulletin.